Hello, and welcome to my presentation for my Unit 6 Mastery Negotiation assignment. This is a reflection and analysis of the Elmwood Hospital negotiation. I am Jacob Burton, and this presentation was put together for the Negotiation and Conflict Resolution course taught by Professor Talbot at Southwestern College Professional Studies. In this negotiation exercise, I represented the Board of Trustees at Elmwood Hospital, and my classmates represented the hospital administration and the concerned community coalition. Together, we worked through a simulated dispute regarding the hospital's plans for development projects without community consultation and the CCC's organized sit-in at the hospital director's office to demand changes to the hospital plans and operations. Let's move on to the overview. So during this presentation, we'll discuss the scenario, which I gave, brief little tidbit of it there, but we'll go a little bit more in depth. The negotiation outcome, talk about course concepts, analyze the strategies that were used during the negotiations, talk about some lessons learned, and then I'll conclude the presentation. The objectives for the class that I'll meet with this presentation are describing the negotiation process, including some key offers and counters, evaluating who won the negotiation and why, connecting the negotiation to key concepts from our course readings, and reflecting on what I would do differently in future negotiations. Let's dive into the scenario. All right, scenario, what took place? Elmwood Hospital is a 450-bed private facility that has become the main healthcare provider for a rapidly growing low-income community. Once surrounded by a white middle-class population, it now serves a predominantly underserved demographic facing severe health challenges like high infant mortality and poor access to care. Tensions escalated when the Concerned Community Coalition, or CCC, learned of the hospital's plans to invest in a heart research facility and staff amenities instead of addressing urgent local needs. In response, the CCC staged a sit-in demanding increased outpatient services, a neighborhood health center, preventative care programs, and representation in hospital governance. The hospital leadership refused to negotiate under pressure, leading to a legal standoff. Rather than escalate the situation, a judge ordered both parties to negotiate with the help of a city-appointed mediator. This sets the stage for the high-stakes negotiation involving deeply rooted issues and opposing priorities. Let's look at how the negotiations went. In the negotiation, representatives from the CCC confronted by Elmwood Hospital leaders over long-standing gaps in community health services. Tracy Winton opened by outlining the community's urgent health issues and their exclusion from the recent hospital development decisions. Hospital Administrator Cicely De La Rosa acknowledged the hospital's obligations and stood firm on the non-negotiable use of grant-funded property for a heart research facility. It just was a non-starter. Jacob Burton, or me, representing the Board of Trustees, reinforced the hospital's fiduciary commitments, but offered to expand outpatient services and include community advisors on the board. CCC's Winton countered with a call for measurable collaboration and proposed a joint task group to co-develop community-driven pilot programs. So he wasn't interested necessarily in just playing an advisory role, but wanted something a little bit more where they have or feel like they have more of a say in what goes on. So hence the joint task group proposal. All right, negotiations continued. The hospital administrator agreed to this, committing to the immediate task group formation, inclusion of CCC members in committee meetings, and formal protocols for their advisory role. The CCC in return agreed to de-escalate protests. So we also got them on the board as well in an advisory role. So there's a little bit there. The dialogue concluded with mutual acknowledgement of progress, setting the foundation for a new era of cooperative inclusive health planning. So while the mediator was present to play a crucial role in maintaining civility and guiding the discussion toward practical solutions, the negotiating parties didn't use the mediator. The hospital and CCC representatives recognized the benefits of a win-win scenario and set the tone at the outset of the negotiations. So they didn't rely on the mediator to really get in between and help drive towards a centered solution. Ultimately, the two sides reached an agreement on several points. So it was increasing outpatient services, evaluating the feasibility of a community health center, and committing to community inclusive planning. Though not all CCC's goals were met, the resolution reflected significant mutual movement and established a foundation for future cooperation. Therefore, I would describe this as a win-win. for both. Because the CCC achieved many of its objectives to improve healthcare within its community, and the hospital was able to continue with ongoing development project while increasing its ability to serve the community's immediate needs, what it exists for anyways. Okay, jumping into course concepts. In negotiations, focusing on interests rather than positions is crucial to finding mutually beneficial outcomes. The CCC emphasized underlying interests such as health equity and inclusion over rigid positions. I think this helped. This mirrors Fisher, Uri, and Patton's approach from their book Getting to Yes, where they advocate for uncovering shared interests to solve problems collaboratively. For example, while the hospital held a firm position on the non-negotiable use of grant funds, they were willing to engage in dialogue. The goal was to address the broader community needs, offering flexibility and exploring alternative solutions. This shift from positions to interests fosters cooperation and opens the door for more creative problem solving. Mutual gains or integrative negotiation is an approach where both parties collaborate to create value. Rather than simply dividing a fixed pie, in this case, both the CCC and the hospital work together to expand outpatient services, addressing the core interests of both sides. As explained in Negotiation by Lewicki, Berry, and Saunders, integrative bargaining promotes cooperation and seeks a win-win solution. This method not only resolves the immediate issue, but also nurtures a long-term constructive relationship, which is particularly important in healthcare negotiations where ongoing collaboration is key. The BATNA, or Best Alternative to a Negotiated Agreement, it refers to the best course of action a party can take if no agreement is reached. Here, the CCC's BATNA is to continue organizing public protest, which could increase media scrutiny and public pressure. On the other hand, the hospital's BATNA involved reputational risks and delays in service expansion, both of which were undesirable. According to Lewicki et al., understanding each party's BATNA is critical. It not only provided leverage for both, but also motivates both sides to negotiate in good faith, since neither wants to resort to their alternative options. Continuing on, once an agreement is reached, commitment and implementation are key to ensuring the agreement is operationalized and not left vague. In this case, the negotiation resulted in specific commitments, such as forming a task group, including community representatives in decision-making committees, and establishing protocols for advisory roles. Fisher emphasizes that making clear, actionable commitments ensures that the terms of the agreement are carried out effectively, reducing the chance of misunderstandings or renegotiation down the line. The CCC's de-escalation of protests also reflected their reciprocal commitment, building trust between both parties. In this negotiation, although a mediator was present, their role was passive. That demonstrates a scenario where facilitated mediation was available, but not needed. According to Moore's work on mediation, while a third-party mediator can offer guidance, it's often beneficial when parties can self-regulate and maintain productive dialogue without outside intervention. So, both the hospital and CCC were able to engage in constructive discussions without escalating the conflict, which indicates that both sides were committed to resolving their issues directly. All right, continuing again, framing plays a powerful role in negotiations. The CCC framed the issue not just as a matter of service access, but as a question of community exclusion and health inequity. This shift in perspective made it harder for the hospital to dismiss the situation as just as logical issue and as just a logistical issue, and highlighted the moral and social justice aspects of the negotiation. The way an issue is framed can shape perceptions, affecting the tone and approach of the negotiation. So effective reframing can change the dynamics of the negotiation, turning it into a discussion about values rather than just interests. Power in negotiation isn't always about formal authority, though. The CCC exercised soft power in influencing through community organization and the potential threat of public protest. This non-material leverage was still significant as it forced the hospital to recognize the importance of public perception and legitimacy. The hospital, while holding formal authority, recognized CCC's influence and sought to avoid the negative consequence of alienating the community. Understanding the balance of power and leveraging different sources of influence can greatly impact the outcome of a negotiation. Okay, strategy analysis. Let's move into it. I identified 5 strategies. They were interest-based negotiation, anchoring and framing, use of concessions and trade-offs, managing the BATNA, and effective communications and tone management. So both sides pursued a mutual gains approach. CCC again articulated their interests, and Elmwood maintained its commitment to the research facility while opening space for partnership and expanding outpatient services. CC's opening statement again strategically framed the hospital as a community partner. Elmwood countered with a firm frame of fiduciary responsibility. Use of concessions and trade-offs. Elmwood made symbolic and substantive concessions, refused to reallocate the research site, and offered advisory board seats and proposed a joint task group and pilot initiatives. And CCC in return offered cooperation on outreach and a commitment to de-escalate the sit-in, which are key trust building concessions. The BATNAs, we already kind of covered those, and I would say that there was effective communications and tone management as well on both sides. Both sides maintained professional, respectful tones, even when expressing disappointment or issuing firm positions. This reduced defensiveness and allowed each message to build toward resolution. Lessons learned. So one of the most significant takeaways from this negotiation experience was the importance of time management during multi-party negotiations. The session experienced a delay started to meaningful bargaining, which I think ultimately limited the amount of ground we could cover. Effective negotiations require efficient use of available time to ensure that all issues are addressed and interests are explored. By starting substantive discussions earlier, I think the parties may have been able to identify more integrative opportunities or resolve smaller issues more effectively. Another lesson pertains to the role of a third-party intervention. In this exercise, a mediator was present but did not play as active a role as might have been beneficial. Mediators can be particularly valuable in helping parties manage process-related challenges, facilitate communication, and reframe contentious points. Had the mediator intervened earlier, especially to help establish like an agenda or guide initial discussions, I think the negotiations may have progressed more smoothly and produced a more robust agreement. And lastly, this negotiation reinforced the value of establishing clear structure and agenda setting at the outset. Without a shared roadmap or explicit topic prioritization, the group risked overlooking key issues and spent time inefficiently. Future negotiations would benefit from allocating a portion of the early session to collaboratively identifying all discussion points and establishing a timeline. So, okay, wrapping it up. During this presentation, I covered the Elmwood Hospital dispute, the negotiations following the court case. I correlated negotiation and conflict resolution course concepts to mine and my classmates' negotiations. I also identified some of the strategies that were used during the negotiations and things that I think could have made for a better negotiation all around. Thanks. The following references were used to support this presentation. Thanks again.